Hello and welcome to the Premier Realm News Clips. This is essentially an addition to episode 7 titled Badlandia Baby, which covered the Badlands in the Minecraft game. While I was covering the life in the Badlands biome, I did not include our soon-to-be friend, the upcoming Armadillo, because, well, it's just not simply in the game yet. So I didn't think it was really worth mentioning until I created this. I want to cover that little guy and also go over something else in this episode. I had posed a question on Reddit. I asked the community what they build in the Badlands, and I got an enormous amount of feedback. So I decided to also include some of those comments into this news realm clip. Because we are news, right? And it is important to be informed by what the people are constructing in this awesome game. Now, with that said, let's get started with the Armadillo. Now, I found a great article on armadillos, and I bet you can't guess from where. Well, it's kind of my go-to source, and that was on minecraft.wiki. And it goes on to describe quite a bit of information on this little critter. Honestly, I didn't know there was going to be this much information known already from something that's not released yet. So let's get started. The armadillo was a voted-in neutral mob. Now, I think I remember that, but I probably just forgot that, and I thought maybe the developers just made it, and just decided to put it in. So I kind of forgot that it was actually voted in. So I think that's really cool. I'm glad that the armadillo won, and that was on October 4th of 2023. And since then, the armadillo has already gone through a few alterations since its snapshot release that day. And I'll get into the major one that the Minecraft community provided a lot of feedback on and voiced a lot of disapproval over. And that would have been the straightward staring eyes that were originally released in this snapshot. The eyes are now on the side of the head like a fish. And the developers thought that, honestly, they really did think that having it in the front of the head like we humans would give a better connection with the owner over the pet armadillo, a stronger relationship. But they were wrong, obviously, because the Minecraft community backlashed that. But Mojang's really good about listening to the feedback of the Minecraft community, and they went ahead and altered that to make it on the sides of the head so that appeased us. And yes, I'm talking about the armadillo because this roly-poly-like creature will be appearing in the Badlands. That's the only reason why I am associating this creature with the episode 7 Badlandia Baby episode, because it's going to be important in this. He will be an important mob in this Badlands, and I'm going to list why here. But first, it's worth mentioning they will be traveling in groups in the Badlands in about 1 to 2 armadillos. So they're going to be not in big mobs, they won't be in hordes like zombies, but they will be in the Badlands, and you'll see them just singularly or with another. And they are more savanna-like animals, and they will populate in bigger groups, I think up to 3 to 4 in the savanna biomes. So not as frequent or populated in the Badlands biome. And they have a useful trait to them. They scare away a couple hostile mobs, and those are primarily the insect ones. And according to the article, they will be able to chase off, or spiders will actually be scared away from them just from their presence. And that also includes the cave spider, which are a nasty variation of the spider. I just think that would be really handy, and I think I will keep one in every one of my towns now, once they release, just so that they won't be bothering me. Instead of just always fortify my walls so they don't climb over it, which I don't do with all my towns because that takes a lot of resources. Now maybe I could put a couple armadillos in there and keep those spiders at bay. And how I would do that would be by breeding them. And you probably want to know how to breed them once they come into the game. And because you're probably going to be looking for these armadillos right away, and you'll probably find them very soon. So if you want to breed them, you can do that with the spider eyes. Sounds gross, right? Well, these are interesting creatures, so it kind of makes sense to me. Yeah, that's right. Spider eyes. And I personally love that they eat spider eyes because I don't do anything with spider eyes. I know you can do like fermented spider eyes, and I think use those with potions or whatnot. But I don't use them. They just stay in my chests. I don't. And I don't use zombie flesh. I know they have their uses, but I am more of an explorer than an alchemist or whatever you want to call a person that uses those ingredients. But I would use the spider eyes to breed armadillos, and so that gives me a reason to really welcome these creatures into the game, so I can get rid of some of that garbage that's in my chest, or what I consider garbage. Oh my. And besides the fact that they will chase away those creepy spiders, what a bonus, right? I mean, I get rid of my spider eyes, and they scare away the spiders. But they also do something even cooler and more useful, in my opinion. They are going to drop scoots. Yes, scoots. You've heard about those with the turtles, right? Well, these are similar to that. But not only will they drop it, you'll have the option to brush them off using that brush that we use for archaeology, right? And I believe we covered that in the last episode, in the desert one. And that brush, it only takes a copper ingot, a feather, and a stick. So scoots will drop off them. And let me see here. I have it written down. If you were to brush them, they will drop one scoot. And they will drop naturally on their own one scoot every 5 to 10 minutes. So I could see players having armadillo farms and having them just dropping scoots, just having dozens of armadillos in a pen and then just going in there and just collecting those. Because you will want those scoots, because those scoots are going to be very important for your wolf armor. Yes, finally we can armor up our furry companion and keep them safe. Now, I want to tell you, I have a dog. The Dark Lord has a dog. I haven't named him. He's been sitting in one spot for a year. At my home on the floating continent that floats above or alongside Seatown. Yes, I have a floating continent that I created that no one else is allowed up there except for me. And it's my domain. My house is up there. It's a pretty cool little spot. But I haven't named the dog, so go ahead and email me some dog names, please. However, you will want these scoots for wolf armor because these are going to be so helpful because the dog is so weak right now. That's why I keep him at home sitting, because my friendly fire when I'm swinging my sword or axe, I've accidentally killed dogs, my pets, by accident while they jump in front of me. It's annoying. I don't want to kill my pet companion. He was put in the game to be as a combatant to help fight alongside the player, but he is very weak, or it is very weak, and I don't think most people bring him out into combat situations. So I think this will give your wolf more utilization in combat and a reason to do so. Now you have a reason to take your dog with you. That's my reason. I'm going to suit that dog up. And, you've been saying for a year, it's time for you to join your Master the Dark Lord out on some battles. Okay, buddy? Now let's get into some of the armadillo's behavior in the game. The armadillo, like in real life, when threatened, will roll up in a ball. And I think that is so cool. It's just so, stereotypical of an armadillo, right? That's what you see in the cartoons and everything, and that's what you think of when you think armadillo, besides all that armor around it. So, the armadillo in the game will curl up into a ball when it feels threatened, and it will feel threatened if a player runs up to it. So don't run. You might want to approach this thing in a crouched position when you first see one of these, okay? And it will also roll up in a ball if you ride up on it, on a horse upon it, or in a vehicle like a minecart. Let's say you have a rail going through the Badlands or the savanna biomes, and they're sitting alongside the tracks. They're probably going to roll up in a ball. I would, wouldn't you, if you saw this crazy mechanical thing out in the middle of nowhere? And they also roll up in a ball around the undead, the zombies, the skeletons, the hostile mobs that nothing likes. So that makes sense. And they will not unball until they feel safe. And once they deem themselves safe, they will take about 3 extra seconds to unfurl. So, personally, I can't wait for this creature to be in the game. I think it will make those Badlands a much less lonely place, and they will help keep away spiders, which will be beneficial in an already very hostile biome. If you can just keep the spiders at bay, oh my gosh, that would be at least something while I'm battling the creepers and the zombies and the armored zombies and the armored skeletons and the witches. Now, shall we get into a couple facts about the real world armadillo? Let's do it. I found a great article from nationalgeographic.com titled Armadillos that dates March 12, 2010. And they have some very cool facts inside of this article, and I recommend that you go check it out. It will be posted in this show's description like I do with everything else, and I really do urge you to look at it because they just do an amazing job. And you'll see some really great photos of armadillos of all varieties. First off, I want to start with this cool little tidbit of information. Did you know that armadillo means little armored one in Spanish? I should be saying armadillo. So, little armored one, I think, is just a very fitting name, and you couldn't describe it any better than that. Right there, armadillo, one word. Good job, whichever Spanish person named that. And let's get into some other facts. Now, the armadillo, from what I read in this article, can range in a big range when it comes to size. And I'm talking about big range. Like, here, let me go. I read that it can be as big as from 5 inches, long, to 59 inches long. That breaks down to 12.7 centimeters to 1.49 meters. That's a big difference, I think. Also, the weight. Listen to this. They can weigh 3 ounces to 120 pounds. And I am sorry, I did not get the metric on that. I will try to put that in the show notes after this, okay? But 3 ounces to 120 pounds, that is a colossal difference. So that just shows the variety, the difference there in species. And the average lifespan of these little guys can be from about 12 to 15 years, which, after I read that, That's not very far off from the camel's lifespan that I mentioned in the desert biome episode last week, which I believe I said that camel's average lifespan is 18 years. So that's crazy to think that this little armadillo lives about the same amount of time as a camel. And I want to point out this from the article, and this is a quote from the article. Quote, contrary to popular belief, not all armadillos are able to encase themselves in their shells. In fact, only the three-banded armadillo can, curling its head and back feet and contouring its shell into a hard ball that confounds would-be predators. End quote. Wow. And so after reading that, I think it's safe to say that the armadillo that's going to be released this summer, I think around June, the beginning of June, or that's the prediction, it's safe to say that this armadillo is a three-banded armadillo because according to this article, it's the only one that can curl in a ball, and I clearly stated that this thing curls into a ball when you rush up to it, or on a horse. So who would have known that the Dark Lord would be a sleuth? Connecting the dots. And they also go on to say that let me see here, that the armadillo is found in, well, this makes perfect sense, in warm and temperate climates, just like in the game. And that makes sense to me because when you look at them with a lot of armor on, they just look arid. They look like arid creatures. They don't look very cold friendly, but I just can't wait to see them in the game. And let me know what you guys all think about the upcoming armadillo. Now, I really want to get into this part of this mini episode, and this is going to be about what people are building out in the Badlands, because I posed a question on Reddit on what do you build in the Badlands, and I got so many responses, and they were all equally cool. So let's delve into that, guys. Now, we are in the section of this episode where I am going to talk about the Minecraft community and what they have to say. And I want to start this off with a person who goes by the name of Game Toast the Great. Sorry, I had to read that for a second because it's all scrunched up. Game Toast the Great. Love the name, by the way. They provided me a great response to my question, what do you build out in the Badlands? And I put that out there on Reddit. And I want to say they sent me a lot of tips and a bunch of ideas of what I can put out in the Badlands, and they even left me a link to their blog. And I'm going to leave this link to their blog in my show description because it's worth checking out. They built so much cool stuff out in the Badlands. It's a western town, and I'm not even going to describe it to you. I want you guys to go check it out, okay? But I will go ahead and read off what they sent me because they have a lot of great tips. They sound like they're pros in the Badlands. So here's some tips they said. They said, I suggest to use the oak in the wooded Badland biome for a wood effect that is found in western builds. And for color, any terracotta would have similar effect. You could deck out the storefronts with banners that have letters on them if you want to go the extra mile. There's a bunch of letter banner designs people have made already, and I feel the stretchy, blocky feeling of them goes really well with the Wild West style builds. Typically, Wild West towns have buildings all based around a single wide street. So they went ahead and provided some extra building ideas. And they went ahead and suggested you could do a horse corral. And they said, I put skeleton horses here because American deserts have skeletons in them. Everybody knows this. Yes, a lot of American deserts have plenty of skeletons. This is, I'm sure, true. They go on to say a water tower. And that's an interesting idea. I never thought about building a water tower, actually. That's something I might need to do out there. Also, a gate with a sign over the main road at the entrance. Now, that's very cowboy-like. That's very dude ranch style. I like that. Also, a mine shaft entrance with minecart rails. That's a good idea. That's a classic. A sawmill. Now, I would like to see that construction. And then a sheriff house plus jail, they go on to say, which would be kind of cool. I guess you could jail some nitwits in there. I just want to go ahead and say thank you to Game Toast the Great for all those wonderful tips that we can now all use. And myself, I think I'm going to build a sheriff house. I like that idea. And a water tower. I'm going to have to get back on your blog and see if you have a mill in one of those pictures. And I recommend everybody else go check out their blog. I'm going to, like I said, put that in the description. Now, I'm going to now read off 3 comments and give my unscripted response to those. These comments I all found as responses from that original question, what you build in the Badlands. So let's begin. And like I said, no script here. Let's see. This is from that one author, 77. And they went on to say, whenever I end up building in a Badlands, and they go on to express, which granted isn't often, I almost always end up making a oasis in the desert, quote unquote, kind of thing, where I bring stuff like moss, acelia, or whatever they're called, and water, and just create an oasis. If it's not that, then it's mine. It's always a mine, like build, like a mine, like a gold mine they're referring to. End quote. That one author, 77, thank you for that response, and I get that all the way. An oasis in the desert. If I was to draw a similarity to that, I do that, and I can see myself doing that in the Badlands, because if we just go down my rail a little ways back to Santa Fe, which isn't far from the Badlands crater, like I mentioned, when my brother first took that over, I was the one primarily that built the walls up and the defenses of the city, but I also did a little beautification and made it an oasis in the desert. I started planting trees around there. I imported soil, dirt blocks, and I planted trees out there to bring life to the desert. We were fortunate enough that there's a river that kind of runs by that desert and the Badlands biome right there by the Santa Fe village. And I put trees along the river bank. So it looks like, I think how the Nile used to look when it was lush. So that one author, 77, I love that oasis in the desert idea. That's something I think I naturally do myself. And I never thought about bringing moss. I haven't honestly found Acelias in my realm, but I have in my city in JSOS on my brother's server when I play in his realm. I found one in the deep underground, huge cave. I can't remember what type of cave that was, an Acelia biome cave. I can't remember, but I love those. If I had Acelias, I would probably do that. So thank you again, that one author, 77. Now moving on to the next commenter, who goes by Viz68. They go on to say, you can put most builds/styles in a Badlands biome depending on how you terraform and lay out the builds. If you want to keep to the theme of the vanilla biome, though, then it's probably best to look at inspiration from real-life places like southern US and Mexico. Then there are places in the Middle East which are built in similar environments. Staggered flat roof homes using sandstone, terracotta, and wood are good starting points. Most buildings in dry places don't need arched roofs. Currently, I am building in a mess, but I am going for an industrial cyberpunk type style. I love that. Thank you, Viz68. And you know what I liked about that comment was it gave me a different way to think. Because I read in almost all these comments, everybody goes for the southern U.S., Mexico, Old West feel. But this person, Viz68, went ahead and says there are places in the Middle East, which obviously I get so home-centric from where I naturally live. I just don't think about other places in the world and how their building styles are. So I like how they introduced, staggered flat roof homes using sandstone, terracotta, and wood are good starting points because most buildings in dry places don't need arched roofs, which make perfect sense when it comes to building designs for practical purposes in real life. So I really enjoyed reading that, and good luck on your industrial cyberpunk type style. Thank you again, Viz68. Now let's move on to apprehensive_hat 8986. And they say, quote unquote, I haven't yet, but I imagine Pueblo style with sandstone and terracotta would fit well. And this is, sandstone, terracotta, those are, a lot of time from what I read, the Badlands are conjoined, bordering the deserts. So sandstone would be very probably practical to find close by a Badlands biome, and you could incorporate that into your architecture and into the builds that you want to do out there. And Pueblo style, like I said, a lot of that southern U.S., Arizona, New Mexico, Old West style seems to be the trend in all these comments, which I totally get. I totally get that. And so I just want to say thank you, apprehensive_hat 8986. Thank you. Those were great comments, and I had fun with that. And thank you to everyone who contributed to that question I had posed. I hope you guys out there listening got some great ideas on what to build now out in the Badlands. From all the responses I got from that question, the majority of people are going for that Old West theme, like I said, which who does not love the nostalgia of the Old West, right? Clint Eastwood spaghetti films, that nothing better, just nothing that screams America, at least, than the 1800s Old West. Then the Badlands is the place that is the perfect setting for such builds. So I urge you guys to get out there and start building in the Badlands, and I hope you all enjoyed this first edition of Realm News Clips. I had a blast doing this, and if you could email me or comment or even get on my X feed and let me know if you want me to do these more often, I would be willing to. But for now, I'm probably just going to do these when I feel like a topic's too big and use this as a supplemental content for that specific episode. As I said, I love being your host, The Dark Lord. It was a blast this week covering the Badlands and then going to the Armadillos and reading all the commenters' suggestions and their builds in the Badlands. And I hope you guys got all amped up to go out there. Until next week, you guys have a great week and keep on building and crafting and using your imagination. Hey everyone, if you enjoyed this episode, please hit that plus sign up there and follow me so you can get my latest weekly episodes sent directly to you. Send this podcast to all your friends, all those Minecrafters out there, and comment on each episode and take a poll. And don't forget to rate the show. This will help me improve the show and just make it better for all of you. Also, you can now email me at realmnews247@gmail.com. Also, you can find me at what was formerly called Twitter, but now is X, at realmnews247. There you will find some of the cool articles and videos from my research, polls, and Minecraft-related content.